here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Hey everybody, Alex Garrett here, and thanks so much for continuing to listen to this podcast. And you know, I was meaning to do one for Memorial Day, the day itself, but I think God has tapped me to do something even better. Okay, what I mean by that is, why not do a podcast the day after Memorial Day? Because the Memorial Day itself is so sacred, it's worth just experiencing, just being involved with. Going to a ceremony down the block from you or in your neighborhood, going to a ceremony to honor the fallen heroes. And then it gets even deeper than that, because the day after Memorial Day and the day after the 4th of July and the day after Veterans Day, I often find myself asking, well, what now? Will we continue to honor the troops the day after an American holiday, American day to honor the fallen, to honor those who have served? Or are we going to just keep living our lives? You know, Kamala Harris got a lot of grief for saying how it's going to be enjoying the long weekend. Let's be honest here, folks. Everybody has said that at one time or another about Memorial Day. For goodness sake, and I'm not defending Kamala Harris, I'll get to that in a second, but for goodness sake, we have always labeled Memorial Day the unofficial start to summer. Have we not? So, when she says enjoy the long weekend, it's very lax. It's too lax for a leadership like the Vice President of the United States. She did tweet about the servicemen and women, after, but not before getting all that clapback, if you will, that criticism. Rightfully so, because from the sitting vice president to be saying, oh, well, enjoy the long weekend, with no mention of the troops or of why we have the long weekend, it does come across as a slap in the face. But let's look at ourselves. How many times have you said, let's enjoy the long weekend? How many times have you honored a veteran after Memorial Day, after July the 4th, after Veterans Day? That's the bigger issue here. We have this amazing weekend because those who storm the beaches allow us to be on the beaches today. Well, yesterday for Memorial Day. And yet, I feel like we literally roll them out just for these 3 days of the year when they should be honored every day. The day after Memorial Day, the day after July the 4th, the day after Veterans Day. Do you know when a veteran goes to a ceremony, they're honoring their fallen brethren or sister that fought with them in the war. They're honoring losing lives, lost lives, and some of them in their own cavalry, on their own ship. And it's got to be tough for them to digest those ceremonies as the years get on, because you continue to remember those who lost their lives, and you were there watching. Some are there watching them lose their lives. It's horrible. But the soldiers that lost their lives did not care about themselves. They were so selfless for this country, they lost it for this country. And for that, they are to be honored, not just 1 or 2 or 3 days out of every year, but all 365 days. Because you know what else? You know what else I believe? That the fighters for our country, that defend our country now, are fighting 365 days a year. We may honor them Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and July the 4th, but they are continually fighting for us to stay safe. Yes, that is the price of freedom. And they are not ever backing down from that effort to keep us free at the risk of their own lives on the battlefield. They are not just saying, well, it's Memorial Day, I'm going to fight today. Or it's July the 4th, I'm going to honor America by fighting for it today. They don't say, oh, it's Veterans Day, I'm going to honor it today by fighting for us. They say, I love America so much, that I will fight for it every single day, no matter the temperature, no matter the weather, no matter the danger. We have fighters who are defending this country, and you got to love that. But we've got to not be sidetracked by these stupid tweets. You know why? Because if we become sidetracked by them, we lose the bigger idea here. And the bigger worry I have, that we all should have, that we in America don't honor our troops enough. We in America only honor them, it feels like, those 3 times. And yes, we play God Bless America every game at Yankee Stadium. That was a George Steinbrenner initiative. And thank God for that. Thank God for baseball doing what they can. But our fighters, our military men and women do not stop after Memorial Day, after Veterans Day, after July the 4th. They keep going. They keep fighting for us. But it hit home for me yesterday how important it is to remember and how solemn a day it is. Because, honestly, we do have fun at Memorial Day parades, right? We got the sparklers, we got the bands, we got the vintage cars. We do have the ceremony as well. But it's generally a nice, warm day to have a fun day out with the community supporting America. But when you look in the eyes of the veterans that are honoring their fallen, you could tell this weighs on them heavily. You could tell this is a very serious, solemn occasion for them. It's why yesterday at the Intrepid, being there, allowed to be in there watching the event, the 21-gun salute, the flag unfurling, the taps, listening to the speakers that have been part of the Navy, listening to the USS Intrepid, seeing them be there, those who were originally on the Intrepid in the 70s. Very special to have them there. Because they lost lives right next to them. Do you know the USS Intrepid, I heard yesterday, was involved with World War II, Vietnam, and they were part of the Cold War, I guess, stable relations. I'm not sure how that worked, but they were part of it. They had lost men and women on that ship. And yet it stands tall. It stands beautifully in the harbor on the Hudson River. Amazingly so. It is a beautiful, grandiose ship. It's a carrier worth protecting. As are the veterans that served on that USS Intrepid. And those that served and passed and died in service must be honored every year on that Intrepid. The wreath laying in the Hudson River is a New York City tradition for Memorial Day. And last year they obviously couldn't have it. But this year, 20% capacity, they were able to put together a beautiful ceremony. And I happened to get a chance to talk to the co-chair of the Intrepid, Mr. Bruce Mosler. Bruce, thanks for, continuing this tradition a year after the pandemic. How does this feel today?
It feels like a weight's been lifted and that we can once again be together with each other, even though we are practicing social distancing and doing other things. But it also feels as if it's particularly important to remember those, as I mentioned, more than 33,000 New Yorkers and 52,000 in the States, 600,000 Americans have perished through this pandemic. So remind us all again of how precious life is.
Did the Intrepid family lose members as well?
Well, I think you heard Susan mention earlier that several of our veterans who have served have passed, and I think everybody in New York knew someone or someone who knew someone who passed in this tragic moment, because let's face it, New York was hit first and hardest in many ways.
I would say the Intrepid is a perfect example of our fortitude in the city, though. Would you agree?
I think it reminds us of how resilient New Yorkers are, just as Intrepid was. No carrier faced greater odds and survived and thrived, and as I said, knew ultimate victory.
And for those who, maybe a veteran listening to this and they still need support through this, where can they go to? I feel like you guys are a great resource to turn to.
Look, there's a tremendous number of places to continue to support our veterans, including IAVA. There's any number of, you can go to the Commissioner, James Hendon, and the Veterans Affairs Department in New York. We're all here to help our veterans regain their footing.
And one last thing, the adaptability of the Intrepid to go online and all that, I'm sure you played a role in that. it was special to keep this going even through a pandemic, was it not?
It was critical to all of us who play a part in Intrepid to make sure that even though people couldn't come to us, that we could get to them. It was important to continue our educational programs. It was important to continue reminding people of the cost of freedom. All those things.
Yeah, you guys actually
critical.
educate veterans. I did not know that until I came in here today.
We do. We also educate young people in public schools, and that's a very important part of what we believe is to remember that freedom isn't free. There's a very high cost to maintain our freedoms.
And you had family as well. Did you serve? Did you have family?
I didn't. My father served. I did not. I was appointed to the Department of Defense Business Board, which was my way of giving back. And I think every person can give back in some capacity, way, shape, or form, and must.
Bruce, thank you so much, and God bless you.
God bless you.
Have a blessed Memorial Day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Bruce Mosler, for joining me there. I mean, that's what it is. Freedom is not free, and our soldiers pay the ultimate sacrifice. It's a cliche, but after seeing people be sidetracked by that tweet, it is a reminder we must not be sidetracked by senseless tweets. We must be focused. If we're going to honor the veterans and those who have lost their lives defending our country, we must do it right. Not just Memorial Day, not just Veterans Day, not just Independence Day, but every day. By the way, I've got to ask you, if you did get offended by the Kamala Harris tweet, and there's a lot to be offended by, I agree. But if you did, let me ask you this. Are you someone that does go to the parades to honor the fallen? Or are you sitting back in your armchair on a weekend in the, wherever, on Memorial Day, just having fun? Think of what role you're playing before you snap to talk about something else like that. And that is my biggest idea here, is that Memorial Day is never over. We must never stop remembering those who give their lives. We must never stop remembering and honoring those who continue to serve and those who are retired, living, and have served. Thank the troops. Remember the saying after 2001, September 11th, lest we forget? Well, in my article actually about this called The Day After Memorial Day, you can find that at alexgnyc.com. I say we gather for these ceremonies, and then I get the sense that we kind of forget about our troops after Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Veterans Day. Lest we forget the sacrifices made 365 days a year, as our men and women in the armed forces never stop making them. Even in our hospitals now, of course, with the healthcare workers, they are helping our fellow Americans get through COVID even to today. And all who serve to defend us do it for the love of God and country, and we must not forget them. Now, one other twist to this, which I don't usually talk about, but it has to be brought up because I find that sometimes if I'm at these ceremonies, they might say, "Did you serve?" And the honest truth is, I was born with one leg. And that honesty is a reason why I go to support the troops. Not only because they give their lives for us, they sacrifice for us, but because I see men and women who come back with limbs blown off, with, even coming back having seen loss on the battlefield. Even families that have lost on the battlefield. Lost family member. You gain an appreciation for the adaptability these soldiers have had to do post-war with the PTSD, during war, with maybe being hurt in combat, or losing a brother or sister on the battlefield. They adapt to that, and they have to push through for their, troop. And they do. May make it look easy, but internally they are suffering. It's why veteran suicide is up. It's why you have to, if you feel like you are under some sort of duress as a veteran, if you can't shake certain feelings because of PTSD, there are resources out there. There are. New York City Veterans is a big office here in the city. We cannot let our veterans down, and one of the ways to not let them down is to tell them there are resources for them should they need help. It's nice to see them do the 21 gun salute in honor of the fallen. It's nice to see the flag unfurled, but if that's where the action stops, then that is not truly honoring the veterans. Truly honoring them is giving them help to the living veterans now that come home and are not well and have suicidal thoughts / have committed suicide. So take all of that into account. And again, I'm not trying to defend Kamala Harris. I'm saying there's a bigger picture here. Are we doing enough to help the veterans truly be remembered? Are we doing enough to help the fallen be remembered? Or are we saying, yes, going to a parade, yes, doing this, yes, doing that is great, and that's how we support? Or are we truly diving in and saying, okay, we've been to a Memorial Day ceremony, we know what this is, let's dive in deeper and help even more. That is my takeaway the day after Memorial Day, that we could do more and should do more. They get sidetracked by a tweet. By, yes, the Vice President of the United States. I'm not discounting that, but let's not get sidetracked. Because people are going to tweet how they tweet no matter what position they're in. Is what we can do to support the veterans that will show up more. And maybe even have a more class, bring more class to the holiday than that tweet did. It's not just a long weekend. Yes, barbecues. Yes, people get together. Yes, they called it the Great American Reunion. Hugs were happening this weekend. I mean, it's good to see that. I shook the mayor's hand, actually. And we were maskless in New York City. Thought everything of that. But at the end of the day, the long weekend and the get-togethers are because a band of brothers, so to speak, got together and said, we're going to fight for this country. And how our lives are forever changed for that every time they do. Every time they answer the call to serve with honor, it changes our lives because we can be another day living in America feeling free. As free as we can. But AlexGNYC.com is where the full article is. This is the day after Memorial Day. And let's make it in memory of those who lost their lives, even right up until this minute. I'm Alex Garrett, where we're always adapting. Talk to you soon.
Wake up the members of my nation. It's your time to be. There's no chance.